Whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today. Today we're going to be talking about the Pokemon Centiskorch and how to use Centiskorch in competitive Pokemon. This is a really interesting bug and fire type Pokemon that we're going to break down in this video. And I want to thank my homie Cameron Kennan for leaving the comment down below letting me know he wanted to see a Centiskorch guide before Christmas. If you want to see another Pokemon featured, you can leave a comment in the comment section below of which Pokemon you want to see next. And be sure to hit that like button on the way down, subscribe if you guys are new, and let's talk about Centiskorch. Now, Centiskorch, again, is a new fire and bug type Pokemon that does have a Gigantamax form, and it's actually pretty strong, but it has a couple flaws that make it a little bit less powerful than we would like. So let's jump over to Cerebi.net, which is where we can get all of our Pokemon information here, and we've got the Centiskorch and the shiny version. Couple things to note: bug and fire type, has some massive weaknesses, but also is pretty strong as well. We've got things like Flash Fire as an ability, which allows it to have an immunity to fire type attacks. It also gives it a 1.5 damage boost to fire moves if hit by a fire type attack. It also has White Smoke, which keeps it so it doesn't have its stats lowered. And then last but not least is Flame Body, which has a 30% chance to burn the opponent when hit with a physical attack. Generally, I would recommend using Flame Body or Flash Fire, depending on the sets. White Smoke is not the most kind of effective option. However, it could be good in VGC against things like Intimidate and Sticky Web and stuff like that in single battles. But generally, I think Flash Fire and Flame Body are both the two most useful abilities. One grants it an immunity to fire type attacks. The other gives it the chance to burn, which could be really useful. You see, it's got some pretty clutch resistances. Grass, Ice, and Fighting, very solid there. Also resists Bug, Steel, and Fairy. So while it may not seem like the most powerful Pokemon from its typing because of this massive 4-time rock weakness here, it does have some really good resistances that it can take advantage of. Now, when we take a look at its move pool here, we're going to actually look at its stats first. We look at its stats, we see it's got really good HP, pretty good attack stat, very low defense, an average special attack stat, an average special defense stat, and a very low speed stat. So what that tells us, it's most likely going to be a bulky physical attacker, and that's where our priority is going to be when it comes to using Centiskorch. Now, looking at its move pool, we do see some special attacks like Inferno, but we're going to primarily focus on those physical attacks, right? And the big bread and butter here is the move Fire Lash. Fire Lash was a signature move for Heatmore, but now is given out to a couple other Pokemon, and it lowers the opponent's defense stat by 50% when hit by Fire Lash. So that's actually really strong. If you are able to spam Fire Lashes over and over again, then Pokemon aren't able to switch in, and they're going to take a lot of damage. It also has things like Lunge and Leech Life to get some health back. It has some cool options on the special side like Solar Beam, Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Fang, Venoshock, Mystical Fire. We also see things like Fire Blast and a really cool move in Scald, but you're going to see Power Whip here as well. And Power Whip is a very powerful grass type attack that does have a little bit low accuracy, but is very strong nevertheless. It also gets access to Knockoff, which is very useful since a lot of Pokemon don't have Knockoff anymore. That's really going to be the kind of focal point of the set there. And again, it does have a Gigantamax form. Its Gigantamax form sets up a trapping move that traps the opponent for 4 to 5 turns in its big Inferno Flame. The alternative to that would be to set up Sun with Max Flare. So in many ways, I do feel like the regular Dynamax Centiskorch is better than the Centinferno Centiskorch, which allows it to trap the opponent. However, there is use for both of those, so I could see you kind of running either or. I tend to like the regular Dynamax version because I think setting up Sun is really good. You remove one of its weaknesses with water types being reduced in the Sun, and you're powering up your attacks by 50% as well. So I tend to think that the regular Dynamax version is the best. So let's take a look at some different movesets here and what you can potentially run on Centiskorch. Now, these movesets are pretty rough. I would recommend kind of taking all these movesets and putting kind of together based on the team that you're running, because I always like to emphasize how important it is to focus on the team, not just the single Pokemon. This is the set that I think is probably the most effective, however, is a Coil set. Coil is a move that boosts your attack, accuracy, and defense stat by 1 stage, and you can use that to kind of bulk yourself up a little bit. It's really good on things like things that carry Gunk Shot, like Arbok kind of gets that, but this helps with accuracy on your Power Whip. It is going to also increase your defense, so that's really useful. So you have a pretty good special defense stat. So this set, I'm actually running max HP, max special defense, and boosting that, and the Coil is going to make up for the lack of attack and defense stats that we have here. So your objective is to get those coils up. You have leftovers and Leech Life to kind of replenish some of your health. You're going to be boosting your attack stat when you do it, and then you have Power Whip to take care of those pesky water types that could be otherwise pretty annoying. But otherwise, your main attack is going to be Fire Lash. Now, I mentioned that you can kind of mix and match your items here, and you can mix and match your abilities. Flame Body I like on this set because you're going to be taking some hits, and your Coil is going to boost your stats, but Flash Fire is also very useful. useful. So this set is a heavy duty boot set where you use Substitute and Coil instead, but we're gonna talk about berries here as well. Heavy duty boots is another option for Centiskorch, which allows it to come in on those hazards like Stealth Rock and not take 50% from them, which is obviously very useful. Same kind of set. This is a more physically defensive set with Coil as well. Again, you can run Flame Body to try to burn things. Fire Lash and Power Whip are going to be the two most critical moves that you're going to run on this thing. If you wanted to run the Sentinferno, you have the opportunity to run something like a Choice Scarf set. You have to kind of make up for that really low speed stat, and again, Fire Lash is a really good move, so having a Choice Scarf set with Leech Life and Power Whip and Fire Lash and Knockoff could actually be kind of viable. And the same goes for like a Choice Bandit set, right? Like, you can really run a multitude of different sets with this Pokemon. I personally think the Coil sets are going to be the best though, because again, that's really the one thing that sets it apart from other Pokemon, that and Fire Lash. So you really want to kind of focus on the strengths that this Pokemon has, because it does have a lot of weaknesses, right? It's got that huge Stealth Route weakness in single battles. It's got a really pitiful speed and a really pitiful defense stat. Again, we can kind of counteract those with various items and various kind of moves like Coil, but again, it does leave a little bit to be desired in those different areas because it just kind of lacks a lot. This is a Pokemon that really needed Earthquake and Rock Slide to be effective, kind of like Scolipede got, and it really needed a better speed stat. So that speed stat's really gonna let it down, but it's a great design and definitely some potential, but I don't anticipate this Pokemon to be topping the ladder anytime soon. There's just nothing about it that's super unique that allows it to stand out. So maybe I'm proven wrong, but I'm just not really seeing a way for Centiskorch, even in its Gigantamax form, to really set itself apart from the kind of other Pokemon in the metagame right now. But nevertheless, you've got these different options with Knockoff and again Fire Lash and Power Whip, and then you could get really creative here and you can run something like a Sub Coil set with Salac Berry. This is kind of an interesting set because the idea here is you like substitute down to activate your berry, or you come in on Stealth Rocks, take 50%, and then you substitute down. The problem with that is you're so slow, so you really have to like sub in front of something that's already really slow, so that way you can get the substitute off, and then if you start coiling, you can get that attack boost, you can get a speed boost through the Salac Berry, which will allow you to outspeed some pretty slow opponents, but I don't even think you can get up to Dragapult speed, really. I guess if you ran Timid, you'd get close. I'd have to check. I guess what is the Timid stat here? If you ran Timid at level, yeah, no, you're not gonna be there. If you're level 50, you gotta get to, if you're level 50 or 128, so yeah, you're not even gonna get to Dragapult with max speed. There's just, this Pokemon just really lacks in the areas that it needs to succeed in, and really is good in areas that don't really help it a ton, unfortunately. I do think Centiskorch is a viable Pokemon though. I think it's a really cool design, and I think you guys can get something out of it. I just want to, like, you know, be straight up with you and tell you that this Pokemon definitely is going to be below average, I think, from my kind of my opinion here. I think there is some potential. I do think the Coil set with leftovers is probably your best bet. Fire Lash is a super good move. Power Whip is also really nice. You can replenish some of your health here, and then by running an EV spread like this, you give yourself max special bulk, and you'll make up for the lack of physical bulk with Coil. You're not really worrying about your speed because you're going to be pretty slow. And there may be a situation where in the metagame, like, there's a lot of fairy types, or maybe a lot of grass and ice type Pokemon, and this Pokemon can really dominate, but unless the metagame forms that way, I'm expecting Centiskorch to be below average. So that's that, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you guys are new, and let me know which Pokemon you want to see featured on our next competitive guide. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.